AsArt. My name is Nick, and I have John here with me, a reader of comments and a reader of books, but he has not read his Dark Materials, but he is here to help answer some of these awesome comments we got. Thank you guys so much for all the comments you've been giving this season. We've been doing breakdowns and deep dives of his Dark Materials here, so subscribe to get all the updates. And if you go to asart.space, you'll get audio video links and links to our cool Gallivespian shirt with the dragonfly, like the way it should be in the books. Pecos with the Zero on Instagram designs all of our shirts. He does such a good job. And now we're gonna jump into the comments.
Ooh. By the way, you guys, I'm glad you have been watching these comment videos and the book differences. I had been behind on them because Nick, watches these puts together video night of where I've been lagging behind a little bit watching them with my wife. And so I haven't been reading these as much. So this will be fun for me to read the comments because I'll actually get the answers to my questions because I probably have the same ones live. So this will be exciting.
And feel free to chime in with your own questions too, John.
Yes. I will. But you can always tell me if you already answered them in another video and I can just go watch that. All right, let's see. So we have Raul. Sorry if I mispronounced any of this, but Raul saying, could you please walk me through the order of the books? On which books is this show based on and which is the next one?
Oh, okay. So basically there's a trilogy that the show is based off of. And we have the Golden Compass, the Subtle Knife, and the Amber Spyglass. So those are the 3 books of the trilogy. Each one is the show. After that, he wrote a prequel book, The Book of Dust, which is basically Lyra being born and her whole situation with that and the stories that go with that. And then there's a book afterwards. I don't remember the title of it, but it's like her adventures with Pan, so she's like 20 years later. Old. Yeah, she's 20 years old at the time. I think at the end of the book, she's like 15, 16 or something like that at the end of the book. So she's like 20 later on. And then there's a 3rd book he wants to write, which he hasn't written yet. So
when they say at the end of the show, the very, very end of the show, spoilers if you haven't seen the end of the show, I imagine you wouldn't be here yet, but at the end of the show, they go, but that is another story. So he's maybe, the showrunners were maybe hinting at that. Yes. Okay. I wasn't sure if anything had been written and they were just wanting to make up their own stuff, but it sounds like there is at least one book in existence.
There's 2 books in existence, and I think he's working on the 3rd.
Okay, cool. So to answer the comments question, so the 3 main trilogy books are what we got in this series, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So the next one after that would be...
It's either going to be a prequel or they'll pick up when she's 20.
What's the book that goes when she's 20?
I don't remember the title of that book right now off the top of my head. And I'm so sorry. If you guys know, please comment down below. It's slipping me like crazy right now. But yes, there's a book when she's 20. I can't remember. And then there's one he's working on too, which might, spoilers... Lyra and Will might get back together in that book. They might find a way to get back through the worlds, maybe with the intention craft, because that is a major plot hole. Okay, because that could just go through worlds without cutting. Anyways.
I know. I was like, boy, that knife's not looking so shiny anymore, Will, is it? Even my wife's like, what the hell is that thing? Is that the knife craft? Like, yeah, we had some issues. All right, anyway, continuing on to comments. So let's see, this looks like it's Calvini, 2013. I think it goes in line with authorities' desire to gain complete control by stopping sentient beings from contact with dust, trapping souls in the land of the dead is like preventing water from evaporating, and the supply becomes finite.
Yes, I think that's kind of the idea with the land of the dead, because the land of the dead was constructed by the authority, which is, spoilers, the man in the box. There's a man in the box that disappears. We did a whole video on the man in the box, but think of the authority as God, even though he's technically not God. He's just the first being created from matter. And then he told everyone he was God. And then he set up religion. So that's the guy in the box. He's the one responsible for all the stuff we went through in this book series, in this world. So yes, basically that was it. They controlled it. They put the harpies there in charge of it. So the land of the dead was just a place that they go to stay, and they just had control of the dead. And it's even trippy too, because you have diehard people in the land of the dead, like in the books, they're still praising the authority. Like, they've given us something great. Don't listen to her. Like, stay here and suffer. And it's like, what is this? Anyway.
And it's funny, the man in the box at the end, I thought it was a wrinkly old lady laying on it, but it's like, you're a little short for a stormtrooper. Yeah, I'm like, boy, she was waiting for a long time. I totally thought it was an old shriveled lady. Yeah, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? I'm like, Leia, you look bad.
That's so funny. Oh, by the way, we also did a Land of the Dead deep dive too, so you can go check that out.
Perfect.
It's us explaining the Land of the Dead.
I did like the Land of the Dead visually. I would have liked some more time there, even though we spent like maybe an episode and a half. All right, let's see. So Patrick White says, I had a lot of mixed feelings about the second to last episode. This might be, is this referring to the last two episodes?
Yeah,
or?
the battle.
Okay, cool. What I was really gutted about was the cutting of oh my gosh, I always think of Megatron. I'm like, okay, Transformer, but damning assessment of Mrs. Coulter. They cut it down to just the cesspit of moral filth line. His speech to her in the book is just incredible. I also think that if you haven't read the books, non-readers would be very confused about who that was in the crystal box. There you go. Thank you. It was a shriveled up old lady in the crystal box. And the significance of it, it was the authority, the God that is worshipped in our world. However, emotionally, I think they nailed the last episode, especially Lyra and Will's separation was just a heartbreaking as in the books.
Yeah.
So cool. So some praise for the books, some things that Patrick thought were a little bit out of place.
And they did totally remove a lot of the Lord Regent Metatron's like speech. It's pretty crazy because like he like could pierce through people's souls and stuff, and so she's lying at her core when she's like doing this. It just shows how good of a liar Mrs. Coulter is. Just like this whole thing. And it really is a great thing. And then I was happy with the ending of the separation because that happens in the books. It's like, you know, they're together. They think they're gonna be able to spend their life together. And it's like, no, you can't. And they're like these teenagers in love that have to make a very adult decision to live their lives separately, kind of thing. So I thought they did a good job. So yeah, I agree with you there for sure.
All right, let's see. So Gift Sparks says, thanks very much. I was thoroughly confused as to who... Oh, the man. He-Man. I'm like, He-Man's in the box. I'm like, I have the power of... All right. I was thoroughly confused as to who the man in the box was. Honestly, it merited some dialogue in the story. Not a word. Yeah, to me, that was a very weird point that... I assumed because, you know, it fell as, you know, the Regent was destroyed that, okay, there must be some very important being in here. And, you know, Azrael just assumed that the authority just was handing over control to the Regent because it didn't want to even bother. That's the feeling that I got in the show. I might have been wrong, but yeah, I came to like the assumption that it was the authority, but there was no hint to it whatsoever. Yeah. And you would think if Will and Lyra cut this person out of the box, they would at least have a short exchange of dialogue. So who do you think that was? But nothing. It's like, all right, well, I think I'm tired of being here now. Let's go, righto.
That was weird.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine Nick and I cutting this guy out of the box, the conversation we would have? Yeah. Who the hell was that? Then Nick, that was weird. Yeah, so anyway. But yes, Gift Sparks, I was just as confused.
Okay. All right.
All right, yeah. All right, let's see. So Anthony Hudson saying, talking about the blue markings on the face, I think it's meant to invoke the face paint of Native Americans or any indigenous culture that had respect for the land. This and who is it referring to?
So when me and Kyle did the breakdown video on the Mulefa Explained, basically.
Oh, okay.
Kyle and I were really confused the blue markings. Because you don't see blue fur in nature. It's very, you know, and so we were talking about like it was a bold choice.
Yeah, you do. Avatar 2, The Way of Water. Oh,
it's an alien. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess if Will was to cut into that world, but but it just threw us off. But yes, that could be an excellent point. They could be dyeing some native plant or something there, and they put the markings on themselves too. That could totally be it. And it's also like an alien planet. They're supposed to be like an alien-like creature. So blue fur patches should work in that world for some, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Blue fur patches. All right, let's see. So Gustavo Clarindo. Sorry if I messed that up. I haven't read the books yet. This season really surprised me. When I watched the first episode, I could never have expected a fight against angels in the sky and Lyra charging the whole multiverse. LOL. Really love the series from start to finish.
Yeah, it really does take a turn, right? Like, especially for you, John, because you may have heard a little bit of me spoiling some stuff for you when we were talking about.
Well, and that's something I want to say in this comment video is that Nick and Kyle were one. Nick, she's like, I want to talk to you about so much stuff, but I'm not going to. So I'm glad that I actually got to enjoy this experience, kind of unruined it all, because very easily, like some people don't like not knowing, even if it's going to ruin the movie. Just tell me, I don't care. I like to see it as it's happening. So Nick did actually a really good job. But yeah, to me, there was some stuff that didn't make sense. So sorry, I cut you off.
No. It's so interesting though. Wait, what was I going to say? Hold on.
Just it turned a corner, and season 3 was quite a bit different.
So it's like, it's that way in the books too. Like once they cut into the Malefa world, it's like, what's going on? And then you have Gallivespians riding dragonflies, because basically the multi-world is really opening, where Lord Asriel has different people and beings in his army and stuff like that. And so it's just like, what? And then you go to the land of the dead, and then there's like these harpies that are guarding the gates of the land of the dead. So you're just like, what the heck? And then like Lyra actually talks to her death, and it's just like, whoa. Like when you're reading the book, it's just like, what is going on? Like every chapter is just like crazier. Like what the heck? And like that's one of my favorite parts in the whole book was the land of the dead, because like the idea, like you have to be one with your death, and your death is always there waiting for you, and it's like a kind old man. Like that's what your death looks like in the book. Obviously they changed it in the story, but it's like a kind old man.
That wasn't a kind old man. No, I was kidding. Yeah, that was definitely not.
But so like, and yeah, that's basically it. Like you hit hit the switch, and it goes to 11 for sure. When it's the craziness.
Yeah, that was maybe one of the biggest odd departures from the first 2 seasons for me. Is everything was pretty consistently laid out for you, and they were introducing new things, but it wasn't like Land of the Dead, skateboarding or roller skating anteaters. Like it wasn't happening at that crazy pace. And to me, sometimes when people throw in just all kinds of crazy stuff in their stories, it's to try and make up for the quality. And obviously that's not the case, because all these things exist in the books and they had time to explain them. It's just like in the book, even Nick was saying every chapter was like, what the heck? But there was plenty of time to explain it. Whereas in here, they had to put those things in there for the story to be faithful. But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? This is really weird.
Yep.
I think that's what maybe alienated Kate and I so much in this last season, was like, this got really weird really quick, but it's still super fun. All right, let's see. So this is a good question by Music Now. What happened to the Magisterium at the end of the story without the Authority? They never really go back to that. After what's his name is killed in the machine when the Authority first drops that bomb or whatever. And then we have our guy that's killed by the angel at the very end. But aside from that, we don't really know. And that's actually one of the biggest complaints Kate and I had about the whole thing. Is like, okay, the whole story, at least with that Lord Asriel and everything, is like, all right, we're trying to free you from the Authority, and the angel is trying to dictate what you have to do. And then at the end, the angel tells Will and Lyra, and a witch too.
Yeah.
They say, no, you guys need to go your separate ways. Okay, cool. And then they just do it. It's like, okay, so nothing changed.
Yep.
And so those story arcs kind of went, and maybe that's explained better in the book. Maybe there's a reason for it, but that to me was a big thing not answered. And the big part of that was Magisterium. Like, okay, so did they just crumble? Maybe it just, is that addressed in the books?
Basically what happens is, one of the main themes of the last book is tell stories, but you have to tell truthful stories, because that's the way you can get through the land of the dead with the harpies to get out the other side, right? So like it's a theme about telling the truth and the true stories, because think about it, the Authority was all lies. It was all based off of lies and stuff like that. And one of the things Will's dad said, we need to create on everyone's world heaven here on earth. Like we have to do it the right way. You can't just have the Magisterium. So when they go back to their worlds, the idea is like they're going to go there to spread the truth about what death really is and how you get through the land of the dead. So it's like rebuilding the church in the right way kind of thing. Obviously it shouldn't stay the church, because that was all like a lie, but like bringing about the truth. And that's just nowhere to be seen in this show at all. It's just like undercut, you know what I mean? It's just like they'll figure it out. They'll find a video on YouTube explaining it or something. So
that's funny. That's hilarious. But yeah, that was a good question, because I was like kind of like, all right, what happened there? And so I'm glad that we got a little bit of an answer with that. All right, so we have Casually Cruel 13 saying, I was waiting for Bartholomos. Is that how you say it? Pronounce it? I forgot. Bartholomos?
Balthamos.
Anyway.
Ding dong.
Yeah. To turn into a bird pretending to be Will's demon, and then laughing face. People from Lyra's world would have noticed her with no demon, because when Lyra first sees him, she notices right away.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that the Gallivespians not riding dragonflies, like Kyle in the shirt, they just have mechanical wings and no Tiles, Tialys.
Yeah, it's like those are birds in the Malefa world. It's like tulupis or something like that. I like the way like they're pronounced, I think, in the book. But yeah, they're predators that eat the Malefa.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's make it a happy world for them in this one. And they also have no distinct features. The Gallivespians all look the same. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe they do look different, but we just never look close. Well, I'm sure you probably were casually cruel because you were looking to notice that difference.
Yep, those are major differences. Like Balthamos not turning into a bird, so Will was technically walking around without a demon in Lyra's world, which is like people would have spotted that. Right away kind of thing.
Well, I mean, some people have little spiders and lizards that are like in pockets and stuff, but eventually, they're like, hey, buddy, that's a little bit odd.
So, yeah, and this is stuff we all broke down, and we are very disappointed about all of those things for sure. Yeah, it's a bummer when you can't fit it in, but the show's done.
And that's his answer. He's sticking to it.
Let's just be happy we have the books.
All right, so we have Christopher Felipe. I wonder if it's the BBC or HBO's fault for the rushing of the ending. I knew it was filmed during the pandemic, but I think it needed more episodes like with Game of Thrones. So yeah, it was just meh for me. Yeah, I mean, for me, it definitely felt like it ended quickly. And, Nick and I had talked in another video, if you want to watch that one, Nick can pop that up,
yes.
Where we were talking about, I was asking him, like, do you think the book was long enough to where they could have split that into like Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, like with Harry Potter? And Nick said, well, probably like 12 episodes. Maybe not a whole other season of 16 episodes total, but maybe 12 episodes could have better served it without putting in filler.
I think so. Yeah. I'm still standing really firm to that 12 episode mark.
And obviously I haven't read the books or listened to them or anything like that, but it does seem like there was a lot going on just with the pace of how quickly things were going. They still did a good job, as well as they could with all the material they had to show, but if they had, like Nick was saying, maybe 12 episodes, it would have felt a little bit more developed, and certain things that I had issues with how the series ended, maybe wouldn't have felt, that way.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. This is a 2 down. So Captain Pogger says, in the books, didn't Gomez's beetle bite and poison Balthamos?
Yes. So I just did a deep dive on Father Gomez. But I'll do a brief little thing here. Yes, he has a spider as a demon in the show. He's not supposed to. He's supposed to have a demon. He was supposed to have a beetle. And I think it's because they did something with the tracking. But basically, when Balthamos was holding on to the demon, the beetle demon, it was killing Balthamos because he's a weaker angel. So he's not like strong like Metatron where he can fight off humans and stuff like that. He's pretty weakly. So like a little beetle was like poisoning in his hand and beating him when he was leading Father Gomez away from Will and Lyra. Did a huge breakdown on the differences and stuff in a different video, but definitely go check it out. It's some major changes for sure.
Oh, did he kill the guy that was hunting him down?
Yes, he did. And he didn't kill him by killing his demon. If you want to find out, go to the video.
Let's see. So this one cracked me up. So this is the Demisa Indikinda. I think I'm pronouncing it that way. So the guy says, dude, please complain even more. I want to hear more about the final battle. And then he put this funny emoji there. That's hilarious. So, dude, please complain even more. That's funny.
And that's on my list to do a deep dive on the battle because there's a lot here. I mean, it would be an hour-long video probably if I was to talk about all the differences here in this video. So, but there was some major changes. And just the quick little fact is how much we actually see of the prep for the battle and the end of the battle, because we only kind of cut through the world for a second and we don't even see the main battle. We kind of see an offshoot of the battle. So there's a lot of differences that happen there for sure. Yes.
Cool. All right, let's see. So Kimchi is saying there's also a Book of Enoch that's not included in the Bible. It's super interesting. Yeah, have you ever looked at Book of Enoch?
No,
I've heard of it, but I don't. Yeah, I've never read any.
There's so many different Enochs, which I'm learning from these comments down below. But so basically, she's replying to I mentioned to Brittany that Enoch was in the Bible where he was so close with God that God took him up in the Bible. So that's who Metatron is in this story. his dark material.
Oh,
it's Enoch.
Is Enoch.
Yeah. So that was his
interesting.
human form, was Enoch, and then he was taken up to an angel, which he got renamed Metatron or Metatron. Oh my gosh, I'm going on Metatron. And then he becomes the Lord Regent to the Authority.
Oh, okay. And so that's why you're saying in the older days you used to take people. Oh, okay, so that's a good reference.
And he always
That's
had
cool.
a desire for flesh again, because remember, angels. That's what they despise most about humans, is they still have a physical form. They desire the flesh.
All right. So
yeah, I mean it's a big part in the book.
And they hint on it. They give enough of a hint to where you get the general idea. All right. So Jay O'Towner, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. As a former animator, Nick nails it about animating familiar domestic animals, particularly those that move slowly. You can conceal a lot of sins with very active characters. That sense of something is off increases the slower their pace.
Yeah, because
was there particular things?
There were a lot of comments about Will's demon of the cat. People didn't like that the cat, because the cat's talking, and because the cat's not running around jumping up a tree constantly, it's kind of just there.
Yeah,
like it's just there and seen. Where I feel like Pan is always like a weasel or like a little ferret or something, where he's always like climbing around Lyra and stuff. But obviously the cat is skittish because she's never even met Will really before. I think it was like the first time meeting your soul in person, and it's just kind of just like standoffish. So it came across, and I'd be like, yeah. Well, I mentioned basically that dogs and cats, something we see every day, is really hard to replicate into 3D, because it's like humans. Every time we see a fully CGI human, we can point out the differences pretty quickly. And just like cats and dogs, I feel like.
No. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm pretty picky on that stuff, but the cat didn't bother me too much. But then again, it wasn't in a gigantic amount of shots. Yeah. It was kind
and
of
a
all right,
person.
We have to show it. Yeah, I'm a dog person. We had plenty of cats growing up.
If there was a dog. Oh, if there was a dog.
Whatever, Sir Regent. All right, let's see. So Mr. Afton says, one thing I find irritating with the ending is the angels never say how fast dust can leak out of the worlds through the windows. If the flow of dust was slow enough, Will could have left a window between his and Lyra's world. That's a good point, actually. Break the knife, spend his life with Lyra between the two worlds. And when one of them has finished their life decades, I like it. That's such a polite way. Finish their life. Once one of them is dead, or finish their life decades later, the window is no longer needed and the angels can close the window, leaving only the window in the land of the dead. Yeah, you know what? For me, that was one of the biggest things that Kate and I didn't like about the ending of the show. Not that they had to be a part. Actually, some of my favorite movies are not happy ending movies. Yep. Like, I feel like that gives a sense of realism to them, but the reasons need to be either stated well enough and early enough. In this case, it's like at the very end, they're doing some quick mentionings. Like we did have Will's father say, don't stay in the world. Like, you can't do that. But again, that's Land of the Dead season 3, not that much. Like if they had mentioned this in season 1 and season 2 and led you to this, where it's like, oh yeah, you know what, that is a thing. We've been told about this a long time. Then maybe it would have worked. And I'm thinking in the books, it probably was explained better. But here, it had enough holes, and I don't mean that as a pun, as between worlds. Yeah. It had enough holes in its reasoning that I felt like, and my wife when we were watching this, we're like, you know what, this is kind of a dumb, like they're just going for tears here, whatever, idiots. And then, as Nick was saying in our previous video, he didn't completely feel the chemistry between the actor and actress for Lyra and Will, and I didn't either, to where I know some people, and I'm not calling you like, saps or anything, but they're crying on screen. Will's trying to cry on screen, but he barely got a tear and they cut away. I'm thinking, yeah, I don't feel that bad, you guys. Like, it's like I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, so I rambled here. Nick, go ahead and answer the question. Sorry.
It's all good. I love.
I'm heartless.
It's also because too. Remember, every time you use the knife, it creates a specter, and that's what's tough, right? So like but
this person's saying just leave one open, right? Just leave that one open. Destroy the knife.
Then balance is off, kind of in the world. That's like that's the whole thing. The balance and all that stuff, but. It's something that they probably could have gotten away with, leaving one window open, but I don't know if
again it's just don't want listening to the authority. What Lord Azrael,
right? Yeah, I know. It's just there's just a new authority. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, do you think that? Well, I guess it's just picking across what an author wrote, like. To me, it seemed like there could have been a solution, but they just were told not to question the authority. It's like Cartman, respect my authority.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess. All right, let's see. So Joe Leto says, the one thing I haven't seen you address, the breaking of the knife to automatically close all the open doorways except from the Land of the Dead. Could you please explain that more and why all the doorways didn't close automatically when the knife was broken at the time? Thank you for your great videos on the series. Now, just watching the show, I thought it was the angels that were going and closing.
Yes. Basically, you still have to physically close the windows. Every window that was ever made throughout the history of
and magically they can go between worlds, but they can't open windows. So it's kind of weird that they're magically able to close them, but they can't open them. Again, that's another thing that kind of bothered me.
The device wasn't made by angels. It was made by man. And remember, the device, the knife itself is basically, remember when the explosion happens and it leads to like nothing, to dark matter, basically, like that gaping hole that was created by the explosion. That's what the knife does on a smaller form. So by doing that, it's not even dust traveling between the worlds. It's just being sucked out through a black hole. And once all the dust is gone, all of life is gone, basically, kind of thing. So that was the idea behind, like, the knife. By the knife breaking, didn't automatically shut all the windows. Will or someone would have to go and like pinch their fingers together and zip it down, every single one.
As you're explaining this, like the black and dust, I'm like, oh, so you're talking about the nothing from Neverending Story?
Yeah, exactly.
The nothing. All right, let's see. Yeah, I forgot that. Now I totally, just you doing that remind me of the music. All right, let's see. So, Studio Room says his Dark Materials was good, but disappointing in how much detail they cut out. Thanks for the Raised by Wolves plug. I really missed that show. Yeah, Nick and I definitely miss Raised by Wolves. We're glad that you're still with us after Raised by Wolves, by the way. Thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what? I think probably what you're saying in your first sentence about disappointing how much they cut out, I think that's probably going to be true about most books. Would you say so, Nick? Or
yeah, I would say
I can't think of many movie adaptations of a well-loved book, especially like a trilogy, where there's not a lot cut out.
Closest is probably Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but there's still a lot cut out. They just had the feeling and everything still conveyed.
The heart of it was still there.
Yeah. All right, let's see. And if you want a good example of cutting out detail in a book, read. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot the name of the book. Stanley Kubrick, Space Odyssey 2000.
Space Odyssey, yeah.
2001. Yeah, read the book and then watch the movie, or watch the movie first and then read the book. 9/10 of it makes no sense in the movie on purpose. That's kind of like a story. And then in the book, they spell everything out. You're like, oh, okay. So anyway, all right, let's see. So we have a Retina P. Sorry if the book series ends anything like the HBO series, I'd be angry.
Whoopsies. Yeah. They stay separated.
Sorry. But it sounds like the book gives you better context for why things are happening, which I think is why a lot of people are angry. I wasn't angry that it happened. Like I said, I like sad, maybe not happy endings to my stories, but it needs to be justified, and you have to understand why. Not just given to you at the last minute. Well, because the angels say so. Like, you go off with that. All right. So anyway, let's see. So sorry, the font's a little bit small. 281 says, how long was Will's dad's gone for? Was he dying?
So Will's dad, when he was on an expedition as a Marine or whatever he was in Will's world, he went through a window, right? And then because it was during a blizzard, he could never find his way back. So he was stuck in Lyra's world. And
so it's almost a Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe type
yeah, kind of, kind of.
And accidentally.
And
okay,
then
sorry.
he realized his spirit was a demon, and that's when he met his demon when he entered the world and all this stuff. And then he becomes a shaman and all this stuff. But basically, he was dying because he wasn't able to go back to his own world to like charge his life, I guess. Like he's like a battery, and he needs to recharge in his own world because of the way magic works. I don't know the way, like, why it has to work. I don't know if it's basically explained in the book. You can't live in another world longer than 10 years or else you'll die, unless you go back to your world to recharge, and then you can come back. Like Lord Boreal, he was the guy that wanted to get the knife in the first place. He stole the alethiometer from Lyra. He was in season 2. He was jumping between his world and another world and to another world, but he was constantly going back to his world to get recharged. So that's why he wasn't getting sick like Will's dad was.
So is Will's dad the only one to really explain why that
Yes.
has to work as a
Yeah,
storytelling
because
device?
he's the
Okay,
only one that lived in another world for 10 years,
okay,
basically.
okay. Now why he would know why is a whole different thing. But
He's a
so I
shaman.
after he got lost there in the military, good job, Sergeant Shaman. All right, yeah,
Sergeant Will Perry, that's his name.
and is that explained in book 2 or book 3?
John Perry, I'm sorry. That's explained in book 3. And it's also explained in the Land of the Dead, basically. So he actually
Yeah,
finds that out when he meets his dad in the Land of the Dead.
I still don't like that because even as an author, he's like, I have to come up with a reason that Lyra and Will have to be apart. I better have his dad say this. Like, kind of F off with that. Like, if you, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Authors obviously more successful than I am, so I'm not going to say anything else.
What have you published, John?
Exactly. AsArt, welcome back. Yeah. All right, let's see. So Quebec, says, I was sort of disappointed. Expected him to say something more before he just died. Now, who are we referring to here?
No, I'm sorry. No, this is the man in the box. So
yeah,
he doesn't even say anything in the book. Basically, they show him kindness in the cube, and they like get him to come out, kind of thing. Like, oh, it's okay, And then he's like, in my mind, the authority was losing his mind because he in the book it just sounds like an old man, like, what's going on? Oh, this way, It's just like that's how it feels. Like he was kind of lost and dazed and confused and all this stuff. And they helped him out, and as soon as he leaves the cube, the wind takes him. So it's not like they open up the box and he just disappeared. There was like them trying to save him, get him out of the box because they looked like he was trapped. So they were trying to save him. This is all during the battle, by the way. They tried to save him, and then dust in the wind.
So after he just blows away in the wind, which I'm sure Lyra and Will haven't seen too often, do they actually talk about? Was that the authority? Who the hell was that?
What we know from the books too, when a soul or a body leaves the land of the dead, they experience this joy because they're becoming one with matter again. So they've already seen people turn into dust, leaving the world of the dead. So to them, at that time, it's recognized as, oh, he's becoming one with nature, because they see the greatest sigh of relief on his face. Like he was finally able to become one. So they see the same image they see from people leaving the land of the dead. So it's like kind of known like, oh, he just became one with the universe again, kind of thing.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll maybe make this our last one just because you have a lot more comments posted and we're already over a half an hour on this.
Cool.
So we have Calvini, sorry, I already had it wrong last time, 2013, and I was wondering about this too, Nick, so maybe you can cover this a little bit. So the part with Coulter obliterating specters wasn't in the book. That part made no sense at all, and they should have let the ghost do that. I Googled extensively to see how she did that, but there was nothing. This almost confirms that she's some sort of witch, except she's not. In the book, she made a deal with them, and in the show, she attracts and manipulates them by acting as a severed zombie adult, which never made much sense. But killing them in one swoop with some supernatural power is just over the top. Yeah, I effing hated that. It made no sense. It was never explained.
Yeah.
And didn't give closure or meaning to her character in a way that I think was fitting to the character. Like, yeah, that bothered me a lot. So, Nick, maybe you can shed some light on this for us.
Basically, they had to throw that part in with her destroying the specters because originally the ghosts from the land of the dead are supposed to join the battle to fight off the specters, because that's like, so angels can fight specters, and then dead people can fight specters, because dead people don't have the part of the soul, right? Because remember how they're only after like the demons, and then they become zombies afterwards, kind of thing. So dead people don't have their demons with them, so the specters aren't even attracted to them at all, kind of thing. So that's one way that they can fight them off. So they cut that whole plot line out though. Like Lee Scoresby, John Perry, the Will's dad, they're supposed to like lead the army of the dead into the battle to help Will and Lyra out as long as possible to get them to the safety thing. So by doing that, they had to deal with the specters in some way with the story. They created these unstoppable monsters, and they have to find a way to stop them. So that was their solution, I guess, was like, oh, she's able to do something magical with them. Like, why don't she just destroy them? Yeah, it's a great idea. No one's going to think about that twice when they wrote down, and that's what we got.
I mean, again, you know what? It must be very hard to be a show writer for something like this, knowing like, hey, we have to wrap this up in 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, in a third season, and there's no way we're going to be able to get to all this text in the book. We just don't have the time or sets or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's got to be difficult. I'm sure they weren't completely satisfied with how they had to wrap some things up too.
Yeah.
We might not ever hear them say that, but I think that probably if they're at least the showrunners, I'm assuming have at least some interest in the books.
Mm-hmm.
And, it seemed like a hard season to make, especially because just Nick had talking in these conversations in the comments where even the book was jumping all over.
Yeah.
And to visually convey that in a dialogue, you need way more time than you would in a book where you can hear people's thoughts. So anyway, a lot of fun stuff, you guys. Nick has quite a number. I'm glad we stopped because this is probably another videos for the comments right here. But really fun stuff. Please let us know if you have thoughts on this, whether you just watch the shows, or you've read the books, or listen to the books. It's a fun conversation to have and something that I was excited to kind of nerd out with Nick once I've kind of finished the show. Up until then, I just wanted to see what the show was about, how it ended, and then we get to have these conversations. So put the comments down below. Check out AsArt.space for all the audio and video links that we have. And also you can check out the merchandise like the shirt that Nick is wearing by our expert Kyle. Really fun stuff. The book take on the little brownies. And really fun stuff. Check out AsArt.space, like I said, for all the audio video links. And we'll see you on the next AsArt.
Yeah, so many freaking good comments. So many.